Many experts, including Berlau and Goforth, have noted the overlap of the SEC. In an article on the SEC in 1971, Nobel Prize winner George Stigler created the word regulatory capture, describing how the company was dominated instead of public, consumers and voters by the industries it controls. The groundbreaking study carried out by Stigler has shown the systemic use of misinformation by the SEC to justify market intervention. SEC's absurd Ripple lawsuit prompted anger in the world of cryptocurrencies and a counter clause charging the SEC of fraud. A Ripple test might offer the SEC the humility it first needs to evaluate its regulatory power. Recent developments. At a recent session, crypto policy experts addressed a lawsuit against fintech firm Ripple by the Securities and Exchange Commission and how the case amounted to enforcement legislation. It seems that the SEC's sudden action was an attempt to circumvent Congress as a measure to define the SEC's status power. 7 years after a startling conclusion that the Ripple XRP payment protocol and the distributed ledger are not a currency but instead safety, many XRP and XRP holders have made the loss of trillions of dollars. It's not the first time a regulatory body has surpassed its competence and caused severe damage to the market, innovators, and the customer. The SEC defended its action in the so-called Howey test based on the Supreme Court judgment in 1946 that defined the scope of a 1933 Securities Act investment contract. The Howey test portrays securities as contracts that are invested according to the efforts of others. The scientists said that the SEC itself required a Ripple test, a clear, transparent, and impartial guide on the safety of a property such as Bitcoin. Two precise requirements that must be met. John Berlau from the Competitive Enterprise Institute recommends two minimum conditions for evaluating if a digital asset is a security. A. An explicit guarantee or a share of revenue or profit for the company, and B. An explicit promise of return on investment. In particular, the SEC should have this conclusion coded by the Congress in the statute unless the SEC can defend itself on the ever-increasing regulative ground, as is now the case with fractionalized non-fungible tokens, NFTs, used to disseminate the digital art. According to Berlau, the SEC has no jurisdiction over the broader investment market and merchants are hawking investments in collection materials like paintings, comics, figures, on actions, automobiles, and other collectibles to distinguish Bitcoin investment from that industry. Berlau notes that federal and state fraud legislation already covers cryptocurrency. This legislation may be further specified to transfer jurisdiction to a specific federal or state government entity over cryptocurrency. Especially notable is that the framework Sarbanes-Oxley currently restricts the possibilities for genuine investors and entrepreneurs in this area. According to others, they should not be subject to regulation regarding assets that do not convey ownership or give a return on investment. Berlau explores these concerns in further depth in Cryptocurrency and the SEC's Limitless Power Grab, Assumption of Investment with an Exemption from Registration with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Carol Goforth, professor at the Law School of Arkansas, has produced an entire article on the Ripple test idea. She suggests that all crypto assets be classified as securities to enforce anti-fraud regulations that protect the public interest and consumers. Under this notion, certain crypto assets would be exempt from SEC registration, but only in specific situations. Goforth notes that if the following conditions were satisfied, the investment would be exempt from registration. In a description of the conditions and kind of property, including those acquired by purchasers in cases of property ownership, the issuer should inform the SEC of a scheduled sale or distribution, where either the issuer or its affiliates or control persons have not been convicted or are subject to interruption or similar decree from the SEC or SEC within 5 years of the selling date. Information on blockchain terms and conditions on which the assets are issued is publicly made available when the assets are published, including the number of assets authorized, how many purchasers are controlled or managed by the issuer or its affiliates, as well as general conditions for compliance before the issuer's issuing assets or asset sales. The crypto assets are operational on sale, and the revenues from the sale are neither necessary nor intended to contribute to developing the token's functions. If an issuer's general assets can be used to support further or improved operations, even if part of these assets are derived from the sale of the crypto assets. The asset does not transmit to the purchaser any right to participate, acquire equity in, or any other right or interest in the issuer's administration, earnings, or assets. The issuer is not permitted to modify the conditions of the underlying blockchain or programming unilaterally. A 2-year statute of limitations on legal actions stemming from the failure of a corporation to register, which can be suspended by the commencement of an administrative enforcement action beginning at the time when the SEC has properly found out information concerning the transactions concerned. Goforth is angry that the SEC would take so long to take steps against Ripple and feels that Congress should stop Ripple. Other cryptocurrency frameworks are available. A digital economy specialist, Bronwyn Howell, brings out the limitations of the distributed ledger system's DELS method to the Securities and Exchange Commission. She notes that while tokens may display specific characteristics of securities, they do fundamentally separate functions and need to build a new regulatory framework that considers applications and end users. It was also called the token utility approach, established and codified in law in Montana and Wyoming. A mathematician, Petris Portgieter, has noticed that any expectations of ownership advantage are mostly related to the broader view of cryptocurrencies and not only to the efforts of Ripple Labs. A Ripple trial, it says, would realize that an asset could have some currency features, but that it does not have an express profit claim. Its worth is not attributable exclusively to the promoters or a third party's activities. He also offers evidence that XRP fluctuations are significantly connected to Bitcoin, about 0.3. Final thoughts? Crypto policy experts brought a complaint by the Securities and Exchange Commission against the fintech business Ripple. The SEC suddenly tried to sidestep the Congress as a means to define the status power of the SEC, they claim. A regulatory agency has scarcely succeeded its capabilities for the first time and caused severe market damage. According to a professor of law, crypto assets should be classified as securities. Some forms of crypto assets, but only in specific situations, would be immune to SEC registration. The Ripple test of the law professor might lead to anti-fraud laws for consumers and the public interest. Ripple's Goforth is upset that the SEC will pursue action against Ripple so late. He feels that Congress should take an action to clean up the agency that it says to the public on a wide scale is unfair and unfortunate.